Så nu är det några minuter över 1:30 och jag får hälsa alla hjärtligt välkomna till detta webbinarie med solelgrossisten och Huawei. Idag gästas vi av Rafal från Photomate Huawei och han kommer att prata om självklart Huaweis växelriktare, funktioner, men främst mycket driftsättning, mycket FusionSolar-appen och support som man kan göra där. Och det dyker fortfarande in väldigt mycket personer, vilket är jättetrevligt. Och jag lämnar, I'm here gonna turn the word over to you, Rafal, and I will make you the presenter.
Okay, thank you.
So
first of all,
you are the presenter right now, so yes, Rafal, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just a short remark from my side. Welcome everyone. My name is Rafał Kowalewski. I'm a head of service and support in Photomate company. So today we'll have the training together. I'm glad so many people join us today. So I see the huge interest of the Huawei products. We will start from the product introduction. I will just go through the presentation part, and I promise I will try to do it very, very fast, just to let you know, to all of us who are not familiar with Huawei products yet, what we have and what functions we actually have in the products. Just behind me, you can see the system we will have we will configure today. So I will show you how to go through all the steps in configuration of this system, this residential 10 KTL M1 with Luna battery, so very important and famous product right now on your market, with backup box, with the reserved power supply as well. So I will talk about functionalities. After that, we will go through the FusionSolar web. So it will be like a very fast part, I think about half an hour, to show you the all main functions we have in FusionSolar web UI, just to show you how to handle some things, how to check them, and how to proceed with some service warranty cases, and how to receive the information from there. With me together is Dharma, is our technical support engineer responsible for support your region, Scandinavian region. So in case of any problems, you can also contact the Michael and Solar Assistant team, but still also the Dharma is the right person to contact with in case of any problems. If you will have any questions, you can ask them during our presentation. So all of you have your mics muted, but if there is a chat, you can try to ask the question on the chat. After some part of the presentation, I will try to answer all of your questions.
Thanks, Rafal. Yeah, and as Rafal said, ask all the questions in the chat. I will bring them up at appropriate time during the presentation. You can ask them in Swedish or in English. If you do it in Swedish, I will translate them for Rafal so he can answer them.
Okay, thank you. So I am right now sharing the screen with you with the presentation, and I will just
I also just want to like to remind people, just so you know, everyone, that this presentation will be recorded for your knowledge, but it also means that it will be available later on at the Solel Grossisten webpage at Solel Academy, so you can watch it again and again if you so please, and the presentations will also be present there. So now, Rafal, the word is yours.
Okay, thank you. Just making sure, is it visible right now for everyone?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I will introduce the product line we have. Huawei Solar company at the very beginning was present in solar business only in industrial scale level PV plants. From 2018, we are actively active on the residential market as well. Each year we are developing new products to the market. But behind all the product line, there are also three main rules. First of all is like to optimize optimal electricity cost. Secondly is to improve the safety, and the third thing is to have the better experience for installers and users as well. So our product line starts from single phase inverters. This is the series called L1 inverters, from 2 to up 6 kilowatts. Unfortunately, generally in most of the countries in Europe, we have to remember about phase balance. So maximum you can connect to one phase, just not to overload the second and third phase. We can connect 3.68 kilowatts. So in European Union, most of the countries do not exceed this limit. Some of you maybe which are not from Sweden can use the more powerful single phase inverters. Those inverters have been refreshed after 2 years of existing the L series of inverters. Those are compatible with our optimizers and are compatible with our Luna batteries. And all the equipment we can see here, like the backup box, the spout parent sensor, and both types of the dongles. The single phase inverters is unfortunately only one inverter available in Huawei portfolio right now, which supports completely off-grid system. So if you will combine it with Luna battery, if you will combine it with PV generator, you can use it as completely off-grid system. And this is only one series of inverters which right now supports such a solution. According to the optimizers, as you can see here, we have 450 watts optimizers right now at this moment only available, but Huawei is chasing the market changes according to more powerful PV modules. So from the next year, those optimizers won't be available. Next year, which will be with the 600 watts optimizers and 1200 watts optimizers. So you will be able to connect 2 PV modules to one optimizer. So this is the change we should expect between first and second quarter of 2022. Most common solution right now for residential market are the M1 series, which is the 3 to 10 KTL M1 inverters, also compatible with Luna battery, also compatible with backup box and all the devices we have in this in our portfolio according to residential market. Just one sentence about the Luna battery, because in the next part of our presentation I will stop on it for a while and talk about more in details. But for now, it is the system composed of the battery packs. Each battery pack have 5 kilowatt hours of capacity. We can combine 3 of 5 kilowatt hours capacity banks to one power module, which gives us the 15 kilowatt hours to one power module. Backup box is the accessory, which can be of course purchased additionally, just to supply our backup phase in case of blackout. So if we have the Luna battery, if we have the L1 or M1 inverter, we can supply our backup phase by backup box. It has of course some power limitation, but I will talk about a little bit later. According to monitoring platform, nothing has been changed since the very beginning of the residential product. It's still monitoring FusionSolar, cloud and app. Also, the power sensors DTSU and DDSU are only compatible power meters with those solutions. It's very important to remember that we do not support any third-party power meters connected directly to inverter inputs. As I mentioned before, 450 watts optimizers is what we have right now. Maximum efficiency is 99.5. The real efficiency about 99%. Those optimizers are both compatible with L1 and M1 series of inverters. The optimizers in the system have one task, and this task in one sentence can be described like to avoid the current mismatch. Because if the current mismatch caused by some shaded or damaged PV modules will occur, the efficiency of whole PV generator will be decreased. If we will just use the optimizers, we can actually improve the efficiency of whole system, and the efficiency of only shaded PV modules or the modules which we have the problems with will be decreased. All the rest should work with its maximum efficiency. Of course, the previous slide was talking about up to 30% of more yield, but just to not be so optimistic, the comparison case for the single phase inverters shows us exactly that during the summer months, we can count on the 10 to 13% more power if we actually use the optimizers, comparing with the system which do not have them at all. So this is what actually we are losing where we don't use the optimizers. This is like the example of quite simple PV installation. Only 2 modules were shaded in the string. But if we will just have the more complicated situation, optimizers might actually be our solution. So this is also the function which all optimizers actually have. But what also additionally can be achieved by Huawei optimizers is, first of all, the long string design. The long string design is allowing us to make longer string with full optimization than we should get on not having it. So for example, we can connect 13, 14, 15 PV modules in a string to one MPP tracker, just not to cross over the limit of maximum input voltage of inverter. But at some point, the inverter could withstand some much more power, but this voltage limit actually is our border we mustn't cross. If we will use the full optimization, the system will decrease output voltage of the string and increase the output current. So at the same time, we will have the power transfer. And in this case, we could connect more and more PV modules in one string and make our system to work efficiently. In residential market, this system can be used mostly for having more flexibility if it comes to the design. If, for example, we will have the situation like on the rooftop, which is here, we might not be able to connect those 3 PV modules, which are the last on the rooftop, to the existing string, because we will exceed the maximum voltage level. But at the same time, if we would connect them to the second MPP tracker, its voltage won't be enough to start up the MPP tracker and to make it work efficiently. So in that situation, the full optimized system and long string design perfectly shows its potential. When we use our long string design, we don't have to care about input voltage anymore. The inverter and communication between inverter and optimizers will take care about it. Our limitation is nominal power in that case. So for 3-phase inverters, the maximum power, nominal power of the strings might be 10 kilowatts. In case of single-phase inverters, it might be up to 5 kilowatts. I will just shortly jump up to the safety features, and I will explain you why I have switched the topic so from optimizers to safety. Huawei has the special system which allows us to avoid the fire on the PV installation caused by the arcing. The arcing is, of course, a very dangerous situation. As you all probably know, the DC current is not going through zero neutral point 50 times per second. So the arc on the PV installation like this might withstand as long as the situation allows to. Those arcing has up to 3000 degrees, so it will burn all the flammable materials on our rooftop and cause the serious risk of fire of whole house. Many manufacturers noticed that problem and try to implement similar solution like Huawei have right now in their inverters. How Huawei is doing it is the inverter is analyzing the spectrum of the DC current signal and is trying to find out the special distortion between 10 up to 100 kilohertz, which will occur when the arc is present on the when arc will happen actually. So the basing on this analysis, we have the some artificial intelligence algorithm which is recognizing if the signal received from the spectrum analysis is the false signal or it is the real signal, and it should be disconnected from the PV generator just to avoid the arcing being continued and avoid the fire of whole house. According to the standards, which is 63027, it's European standard, Huawei received this year the certificate according to this standard, and we can say that our inverters can disconnect arcing PV string in less than half a second with accuracy of 100%. So 100% of accuracy of detecting those arcing. And those functions are implemented absolutely free of charge in our inverters. Those functions are turned on by default. You can turn it off, but it's of course very not recommended. Of course, I will show you where it can be can be turned off, but it has like significant influence on our fire safety on our rooftops. If we combine our function with optimizers, we have some additional function which is called pinpoint arc detecting. So having the fully optimized string and having AFCI function gives us the information exactly when, under which PV module, under which part of our PV generator we might have the problem with arcing. If we don't have the optimizers, the inverter will just tell us only on which PV string it exists, not exactly telling us the place. So this function is warning us that, okay, some arcing is visible on our PV generator and just turns off the inverter. If the situation will repeat 5 times during the day, the inverter will recognize it as a very serious and dangerous situation and will switch off totally. And unfortunately, to reset it and just make it work again will be only possible by going on site, finding an issue, just fixing the problem and starting up the inverter again. Also, additional function of Huawei optimizers is the same what you might have seen in different solutions. It's called zero voltage level or save voltage shutdown, rapid shutdown. There are different names on the same function. What's behind it is like decreasing the voltage level of our PV string on the of course, basing on the reading on the output of the string and basing on the output voltage of all optimizers. So in our case, we will always have like 0 volts at the output of PV string when we have full optimization, just to ensure the safety of installers during the maintenance and installation, and also to ensure the safety of firefighters during the extinguishing the fire on the rooftop if it will occur. Of course, the firefighters have their own procedures how to distinguish the fire on PV installations, but still this function also gives them additional safety according to not being electrocuted by the voltage from the DC side. If we configure the full optimized string, our inverter will warn us at the very beginning the input voltage of the inverter is 0 volts, which is typically normal situation. We don't have to worry about this. But if you would like to check if our system is connected properly together, we just measure the output resistance of those strings. So 1 kilo ohm at the output of each optimizer, this is the result we should expect. So number of optimizers multiplied by number of 1 kilo ohm should be our result we should see on our multimeter when we are checking if our system with optimizers is connected properly. Our inverter will recognize the number of optimizers and its serial numbers connected to the inverter, but what we want to have, just to have the better view on our PV installation, is to create a physical view. The inverter itself is creating just only logical view, so it will tell you just how many optimizers and to which string we have connected to. But to create the physical layout, we have two ways to do that. First way is just to unstick the stickers from the optimizers and put them on the special template and take a photo of it. And the second way is just to make it manually. But in that case, we have to know exactly which serial number of the optimizer is where on our rooftop. So both ways are available, and it's going very, very fast. We can do it efficiently in a few seconds. I personally prefer the way not just manually adding the PV modules, because those stickers are perfectly work when we are in the controlled area, but when we have to move it on the rooftop, when it's the winter time, it's not very comfortable way to unbind them from optimizers and put them on some template. It's just better to remember where we put those optimizers or write it down and make it peacefully the physical layout after remotely from our office in FusionSolar. In history, we had like the previous version of optimizers. So if the size of optimizers is important for you, it's like 50% smaller than the previous generation. The previous generation was compatible only with single phase inverters and nothing else. So right now they are quite handy. The new version 600 watts will be just a little bit longer, not wider, but longer. So if you have some special mounting system to mount the optimizers not to the frame of PV modules but to the frame of the construction, you can still use the same. The shape will probably still be unchanged. This metal part will be still the same. If it comes to the Luna, the product your market is right now very interested in, this is the DC coupled solution. DC coupled solution, it has some advantages and some disadvantages as everything. The DC coupled solution allows us to charge the Luna battery even if our grid is off. So this is a huge advantage. Also, this allows us to supply our output when we don't have any, when we have the blackout. So those two functions are very, very useful. So even if we have the blackout, our PV energy is not used by our loads, but still can be used to charge our battery, and we can retake this power after we receive our connection to the grid again. So as I mentioned, 5 kilowatt hours per each battery pack. We can connect up to 3 of them to one power module and 2 power modules in parallel, which gives us in total 30 kilowatts hours of usable capacity. So 2 of such sets, as you see here, can be connected to one inverter. Also, what's very important, according to Luna batteries, is lithium phosphorate, iron phosphorate battery cell. So it's probably the most safe standard which is currently available on the market. Many e-cars manufacturers right now are switching to this technology. It's because of 2 things. First of all, the runaway temperature of those cells are much higher than in regular lithium batteries. Regular lithium batteries have the runaway temperature about 160, 180 degrees. So when some shortcut will happen on the battery and it will overheat, the temperature inside will exceed 100 degrees, it might burn itself, and it will still burn until all the materials inside will burn out totally. Of course, it will cause the fire of everything in area. I hope a lot of you have seen the videos on YouTube where some people are damaging the lithium batteries, for example, from our phones. So this is like, imagine that those batteries can be damaged, but this battery is like 100 times bigger or even more than typical battery in our cell phone. So this is like quite safe technology. And the secondly, what's behind those safety, even if the situation will happen, I mean, we will exceed the runaway temperature, which in our case is 480 degrees, the chemical reaction which is behind those burning process do not generate the oxygen as a part of chemical reaction. So it means that the battery will produce a lot of smoke and of course will burn out the material inside, but there will be no oxygen causing actually explosion of the battery. So this is the two reasons why market is actually switching right now from typical lithium cells to LFP cells, and this is what we can have inside here. Maximum charge and discharge power for Luna battery is 5 kilowatts, but remember it's DC coupled solution, so we are always limited by the output power of inverter. So if you have 3 kilowatts inverter, this is the maximum power you can take from the inverter, and not the 5 kilowatts from the battery. So this is one of the disadvantages of having DC coupled solution. We are always limited by output power of inverter. In standard, we have the floor stand, but additionally, we can order the wall mount. It's the weight of this battery is about 50 kilograms. So remember, if you decide to mount it on the wall, it has to be very properly mounted. One additional thing about Luna battery is the optimizers built inside each battery pack. Why we decided to use those optimizers? The optimizers on each battery pack allows you to develop your system after a few years you decided to do. So imagine the situation, the customer is buying the Luna battery right now, but in a year or in 2 years, he decides to buy 2 additional battery packs. So because we have the optimizers inside, we won't have any problems regarding the old battery packs working with new battery packs, because each battery pack is charged and discharged independently. And this is actually how it works, exactly how the optimizer works in the PV system, but in that case, it works with the battery. So we don't have any circulating current between battery packs. We don't have any problems with overcharging and over discharging. We can easily connect additional battery packs to the system very, very fast and do not care about the different usage of different battery packs. The DC coupled solution, according to Luna battery, is requires quite over dimensioning of the inverter. So as you can see on the example below, we have the 10 kilowatt peak PV installation connected to 5 kilowatt inverter. And this energy can be actually used at the same time with the house loads, and at the same time we can charge the battery. So 5 kilowatts on the output of the inverter, which comes to our loads, and 5 kilowatts to charge the Luna battery. And all of this is achieved by 5 kilowatt inverter. That's why, of course, this example is maybe very marketing example, like we have the oversizing on 200% comparing to our power of our inverter. But according to DC coupled solution and according to our power of our PV installation, we don't have to be worried about over dimensioning of our oversizing of our inverter. It will easily work with both battery and our PV installation, and it will even work more and more efficiently. So this is what it's even recommended to oversize inverter a little bit more than in standard system without batteries. Backup box, this is the accessory I have told you about before a little bit. It allows us to connect to supply our backup phase when we have the blackout. So from the battery, the energy is transformed by inverter and provided to our loads. There is unfortunately a huge limitation according to this. I mean, if we have the three-phase backup box, it can supply only one backup phase. So we cannot have three-phase backup. It's only for one single phase. So it means that when we have the 10 kilowatts inverter, so 10 kilowatts divided by three phases, it's 3.3 kilowatts. This is maximum power we can get through the backup box to our loads. And this is what has to be remembered. At this moment, I very commonly receive the question, okay, what will happen if we will have three backup boxes and three inverters connected to independent phases? Unfortunately, it won't work as you expect. I mean, as long as you want to supply three-phase loads. If you don't have like the three-phase loads, it will work. If you have them, like, for example, heat pumps, it unfortunately cannot be supplied from this backup box because we don't have this phase angle between the backup phases. And this is why the system won't work properly. I mean, the loads won't work properly. The Luna battery, as I mentioned it before, is 5 kilograms per each battery pack. 100% deep of discharge means that you can actually configure your Luna battery to be discharged to 0%. I mean, it's not relatively 0% because Luna battery has always some spare capacity to not discharge it fully. But in that case, I actually can use 5 kilowatt hours of usable energy if you want to. This chart below actually shows how much power you can take from the system and in different configurations. So as you can see, the 5 kilowatt hours is applicable only when you have 10 or 15 kilowatt hour system. If you have only 5 kilowatt hours, the output power is only 2.5. It's because we cannot discharge and cross over the limit of charging and discharging of the current of the battery. According to the safety, each battery pack has built-in 8 temperature sensors. It's according to the German standard. So those temperature sensors are actually monitoring all the time what's going inside the battery. And if some overheating will happen, the system will cut out this battery. What's also very good feature of the system, even if the one battery pack has some problems, we still have the optimizers inside, so the system might work without the one battery pack, but 2 additional might work independently and work fine. I will just switch to the dongles. It's 2 possible dongles right now to communicate with our inverters, VLAN fast Ethernet and 4G dongle. This is the solution you already probably know from previous series of the inverters, which was M0. Right now, nothing actually changed in those dongles. One change is right now we can communicate those dongle VLAN fast Ethernet. We can communicate this dongle by Modbus TCP IP. So some third-party monitoring platform can be connected to the dongle, and you can download the data or send some communication, some registers to the dongle, and to control the whole system by it. All the Huawei devices in the system are configured by the app, which I will show in a few minutes. If we have the Huawei products, all of them should be detected automatically. If the communication is, if the physical connection is fine, it should be detected automatically. For most of the cases, if there are some problems with it, it means that the physical connection is not done properly, or maybe the product might be faulty, but this situation happens much more regularly. It's not so often like the situation when the communication, physical communication, is done in the wrong way. One of the last functions I would like to mention about is the PID, anti-PID function. The PID effect is well known to PV module manufacturers. This PID effect is because we right now have the we have the inverters which are not which do not have any transformers or on DC side. So we have our positive and negative pole of our PV generator, and we have the grounded frame, which potential is about 0. So this potential is causing the following thing. On the last and first PV module, there are some ions going through the glass to the semiconductor structure. It contaminates it, and it's decreasing the performance of the PV modules. Some of the manufacturers already noticed that is the real problem, and some of them trying to do something about the PID effect. Even if you maybe you have some situation when you have seen the PV modules with the stickers on them, which was called anti-PID. So it means that the effect was not eliminated in 100%, but it's not so visible as in standard PV modules as it is. It's not visible as in standard PV modules without it. So this effect might be visible on PV modules after 5-10 years or even longer, but actually the situation it causes is like the decrease of the performance of our PV modules on the first and last PV module, so closest to the positive pole and closest to the negative pole. So the Huawei have the built-in system because it was researched that this effect might be repaired. During the night, when our PV generator is not active, our inverters just put the reverse voltage to our PV modules and just repair this effect. And this function can be switched on and consumes only 5 watts during the night, repairing our PV modules and working against this unwanted PID effect. If it comes to the failure rate, Huawei inverters can actually can tell it very widely that we have like less than 0.5% of failure rate. So it's like 1 inverter per 200 sold was replaced under warranty. What's behind it is like we don't use any quick wear parts, any screens, any buttons, any parts which should be replaced every few months, or maybe a few years, sometimes even after a few months, because of a usage of those parts. Also, up to 60 kilowatt inverters, we have only passive cooling in our inverters, so there are just only very small fan inside the inverter, not actually sucking or putting out the air on and inside the inverter, just to mix the heat inside the inverter. So this is how it was developed by Huawei. Of course, this is for avoiding some particles to getting inside the inverter and to make the cooling system more efficient and more reliable. And this is the end of our presentation part. I hope you're still with me. And now we will just go to the more exciting part, I guess, which will be the configuration of our system. I will share you my screen from my app, and I will be explaining you step by step what is going on here. Do we have any questions at this moment to the theoretical part, to the presentation part? If somebody has some questions right now, it can be asked and answered now.
At the moment, there are no questions. I don't know if you want to spend a couple of moments on saying something about the M2, M3, and the 50, 60, and 100 kilowatt inverters as well.
Yes, we can do it, of course, if it comes to the commercial and industrial scale as well.
I'm sure that most people know these inverters, but yeah, just a quick review. My special features might be fine.
Okay, so fine. So most of the functions we have talked about according residential part will be also applicable for the commercial and industrial scale inverters. So I promise I will just go through that very, very fast. Let's just switch the presentation, and we will go for the commercial and industrial scale products as well. Okay, so let's just switch to the products. What's the unfortunately unavailable in commercial and industrial scale inverters is we don't have the Luna batteries here. So even when we have the M2 series or M3 series inverters, we cannot connect the Luna batteries to them. Huawei is planning to release the new battery system probably next year. As far as I know, there will be two available capacities of those systems. It will be completely AC side solution. So it will require additional inverter just to convert the power from the AC side to the DC side to charge and discharge the battery. And its capacity will be 100 kilowatt hours and 200 kilowatt hours for more commercial projects. According to industrial scale projects, there is also one product which will be released. This is the 2 megawatt hours energy storage system for special use, like on PV farms, huge PV plants, industrial PV plants. Okay, so M2 series is starting from 12 to 20 KTL M2. The M2 series have all the functionalities which we have behind optimizers I have talked to you before. So all this rapid shutdown function and also IFCI function, PID function, all those functions are also available in M2. If you would just take a look on them, the only difference between M1 and M2 is like the more power they can withstand and transfer, and there is no battery input, unfortunately. So those are M2 inverters. We have the new version of M3, which is 30, 36, and 40 kilowatts inverters. Those also are compatible with optimizers and all the functionalities I have told you about before. The same, the M2 has 2 MPP trackers, 4 inputs. M3 has 4 MPP trackers and 8 inputs. Another series of inverters is the 50 and 60 KTL, so 2 models. It's M0 series. Those are unfortunately not compatible with the optimizers, and with the additional functions I have talked before. So this is the old type of inverter. It's only doing the job, I mean transferring DC to AC side without all the additional functions. The Sun 100 the KTL M1 is very common product according to the PV installations in Sweden, I believe. This is what I most commonly see. So this is the 100 kilowatt inverter, 1000 volt input, 400 volts output, but it has two versions. First version is M1 and another one is M1 Pro. The difference between them is the M1 version Pro has additionally AFCI function. The standard version of it do not have it. And what I can tell you at this moment, next year we'll also have the version of 100 KTL M1, which will be compatible with the new optimizers, with the 600 watt optimizers. Also, I have the feedback from our R&D that the old optimizers will also can communicate with the new optimizers. So even if you have the system when you would like to mix two types of optimizers, it will be possible. So those are upcoming products for next year. All the rest of the products, like the optimizers, monitoring portal, dongles, and smart power sensors are the same. But according to the power sensors, this is what has to be said right now. Maximum measuring range of this device is 170 kilowatts. So for commercial scale PV installations, it's fine. But for industrial, we have to use some third-party power meters, which are also compatible, not all of them, but most of them are compatible with our products. We have additionally the H series of inverters. H series of inverters is very commonly used on PV plants, huge industrial PV farms. Those inverters are quite different than the standard inverters I have talked to you about before. Here we have 1500 volts of DC voltage maximum on the input and 800 volts on the output of those inverters. So 105, 200, 185, and 215 KTL H series are the products available right now on the market. Most commonly right now, the market is looking for the 215 kilowatts because of the high current, high input current those inverters can withstand. Right now, the PV modules becomes more and more powerful. The shortcuts currents and the operating currents are also bigger and bigger, and manufacturers of inverters are trying to chase the manufacturers of PV modules according to this situation. So 250 KTL H0 has 9 MPP trackers and 18 inputs, but there is also one additional version of this inverter which will be available in Europe as well next year, which is 215 KTL H3. The difference between them is H3 have only 3 MPP trackers, and those 3 MPP trackers have 5, 5, and 4 inputs. And each MPP tracker can withstand up to 100 amps. So it means that 20 amps per string can be transferred, can be actually handled by this inverter. So 215, and for 1 megawatt PV installation, 4 of them is quite enough. You don't have too much DC to AC side oversizing. You don't have much more the losses of oversizing than it is necessary in that case. So this product becomes very, very popular right now. What can be said right now? But more like the rumor, but not maybe like the real announce of the product. I have seen like preliminary information from Huawei side. Soon they will release also more powerful inverter, which will be 345 kilowatts. But I can't tell you actually if it will be released next or even another year. If I would have to estimate, I would expect it at the end of 2022. The smart logger is the product which is used actually with the industrial scale inverters. So this is the brain of our system. It collects all the data. It's sending the commands to the inverter, registering all the parameters and monitors them. Also allows us to connect it with the third-party monitoring platform or some controlling system, externally controlling system by grid to control our PV plants by the grid operators, for example. So this is like the heart and the brain of our whole system. The M3 series, as I mentioned before, is a new product. At this point, I would like to stop for just for a moment. When you open the English version of manual to those inverters, you will see 2 additional modules of this inverter, maybe even 3. You can find 20 KTL M3, 29.9 KTL M3, and 33 M3. So please be aware those products are available only for Asian market. You cannot buy them in Sweden, you cannot buy them in any European country because those are not certified according to European standards. So only 30, 36, and 40 KTL is available on the European market.
Rafal,
Yep.
we just have 2 questions here, but I'm sure, Bengt, that your question has been answered. You wanted to know the difference between the commercial versus the residential, and I think that you went through that quite well. Any other clarification, Bengt, that you need? Well, you can always write it or let us know. But Tim from Bravida has a question. What is the H1 series voltage output? He asked once more.
Could you repeat the question? What's the voltage of what?
What is the H1 series volt output?
So output voltage of H series, no matter if it's like the H1, H0, or H3, it's always 800 volts. So the special sub-transformer station is required for those projects. And if you have some low voltage demands just to supply something on the PV farm, you have to have the smaller transformer for 400 volts only for this purpose. But this, of course, the reason why the Huawei is using 800 volts is quite easy to understand and quite easy to explain. We have the much less the power losses of the power on wiring on the AC side if we use the 800 volts instead of 400 volts. Yeah, so this is why Huawei decided to use this standard of voltage.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I will just skip through the projects. I think this presentation will be shared to you. So there are the many projects where Huawei inverters has been used around the world. As I promised, I will just go through the commercial and industrial scale inverters very fast. So some of our inverters are compatible with the optimizers, which are M3 inverters, which are 100, which will be of course M2, M3, and in next year 100 M1 inverter will be compatible with our optimizers. In the commercial and industrial scale PV projects, it's even more crucial to avoid the shadings or current mismatches, because in residential scale, it's okay. We can actually deal with some losses, but if it comes to the commercial and industrial scale, this is the investment, and we would like to return our investment as fast as possible, especially including the more powerful systems. So this is, of course, very, very important in that case. And remember one additional thing, that in every commercial and industrial scale inverters, we have 2 PV strings connected to one MPP tracker. So even if one PV module on the string will have some problems and we will have the current mismatch there, it will mean that whole MPP tracker will have the decreased efficiency. That's why it's important to consider having optimizers when we really need them. If we will use the long string design, which I described you before, but we will apply it to the commercial and industrial scale projects, it might actually save some of our money, because if we will just do longer strings, at some point we might reduce the number of inverters we should use in our project. So instead of buying 7 inverters and all cables, fuses, SPDs, which are required for this, we can use the optimizers, make a long string design, and maybe resign of using the huge number of inverters. So at some points we can use this in that scenario. All of our inverters, and not only ours, but also all the competitors right now, have the 2 inputs per 1 MPP tracker. It has been proved many times that it's more efficient to have multi-MPP tracker system than single MPP tracker system. It's of course because of the efficiency and the losses because of the decreasing power of the strings on shading, because of shadings, different directions, different tilt, and so on and so on. The PID effect is still with us, and M2, M3 inverters can actually also work against this PID effect by anti-PID function. If you would like to have the same function for more powerful inverters, there is an accessory in Huawei portfolio which is called anti-PID box, which is additionally mounted on the PV side and can do actually the same job as this system, which is built inside this inverter as a standard. So this is also the function we can have in our commercial and industrial scale inverters. Here is like the video I wanted to show you regarding the AFCI function. Maybe not this one exactly, but the next video is showing exactly how the inverter works when the AFCI function is on and when it's off. So here is the comparison. Here is off. So as you can see, the arcing is still present, and on the second movie, just in a less than half a second, the inverter triggered the alarm of AFCI and switched off the arcing switched off the inverter and stopped the arcing on the PV side. So this is how it works. This is the same, of course, certificate. So all inverters which have built-in AFCI function have the certificate according to 630.27 standard. If somebody would like to see it, we can of course provide it. It's completely. It's not like the fragile information. We can of course share it with you. If it comes to the standards, Huawei, the standards tells that we have to be able to detect the signal of arcing on 80 meters and 16 amps of current on the string, but right now we achieved the distance of up to 200 meters and 26 amps of current. Everything what is longer and has more current becomes not so very accurate. So many false alarms might occur, or maybe some arcing which are not detected and supposed to be detected also might happen. It's because in case of 200 or even longer strings, it's like very huge and long antenna, which is receiving all the noises from surrounding. And according to the current, 26 amps is the very huge level of signal, which might cover the distortion of the arcing we would like to detect. That's why technically this is very hard to achieve the accuracy on 100% if we will want to work with higher currents. The same function we have with optimizers on residential scale, we have them in commercial and industrial. So the zero voltage shutdown and say voltage shutdown, this is the function we can actually have if we use the optimizers and we have the fully optimized system. The same thing is about pinpoint arc detecting. Fully optimized string allows us to detect exactly where the arcing on our system is present and where we should look for the issue. I will just go through one additional function which is very, very useful, and the market right now becomes very interested about implementing this. It's not, unfortunately, in commercial and industrial scale inverters, it's not free of charge, but if you have the residential inverter already, you have the function free of charge and you can test it from FusionSolar if you want. So I will show you after when you can actually try to use it. But what's behind this function is the AV curve smart diagnosis. So the inverter is drawing the AV curve of our PV string based on the parameters we retype from datasheet in FusionSolar, and we have this green curve, which is our theoretical curve. And after that, inverter can measure real AV curve of our PV string. Comparing those two curves, inverter can, or the algorithm can actually recognize 14 typical issues on the PV modules or on the PV strings, which allows us to detect, find out, and eliminate some possible issues on the PV strings in advance. It's very important, especially if it comes to the huge industrial scale projects. If we have 200 strings to check or even more, it's more comfortable to use it from the office, find out possible issues. I mean, the strings where we can, which might be faulty, and after that, go on site and perform the OEM on site, looking for possible problems. So this is the typical measurement of AV curve, but made remotely from the office. If somebody would like to test it in residential, it's free of charge. For commercial and industrial scale inverters, it's additionally paid. The estimated price for this is calculated per megawatt hour, per megawatt. So it is about, I don't know, a few hundreds euros for 1 megawatt per year, something like this. So just if you would like to implement it, just you have to contact our distributors and our sales partners. So they will, of course, provide you the valid information. So this is how the AV curve diagnosis works. It performs the measurement of AV curve and gives us the feedback what might be wrong about our strings before we even move from our office. And this is the quick walkthrough on our commercial and industrial scale inverters. Are those any questions for this part according to some products?
Yes, two actually. One question about the optimizers, asking about minimum, maximum number of optimizers per string. Optimizers only on certain panels possible.
Okay, so there is some kind of, if you already find out some technical notes from Huawei, you might find out some quite misleading information, and I think this is why the question was asked. So it's important for me to explain it, but I will need to share it with you. Okay, so this is this file. So we have the technical note from our optimizers, and what's written here is like the minimum number of optimizers is 4 or 6, depending on what inverter we use. So just to clarify this thing, this is applicable only when we have fully optimized string. Okay, so if we have the string composed of fully optimized PV modules, the minimum number of it is 6 for M1, M3, and 4 for L1. Why this condition is here? It's because the minimum startup voltage of the inverter. Okay, 6 PV modules which are optimized can actually exceed the minimum 200 volts of DC input to make the MPP tracker work. If it comes to the L1 series is 100 volts. That's why we need only 4 of optimizers. If you would like to use the partial optimization, it's still possible. So, for example, if you have the 20 PV modules and you would like to optimize only 2 of them, it's available. It can be done. This technical note actually explains, this material can be shared, of course, with you as well, actually explains all possible scenarios which can be or cannot be achieved by Huawei optimizers. So this is a very important document, and according the number of optimizers, I think the question was about the minimum number. This is applicable only for fully optimized string. If you would like to use just only one optimizer on string composed of 20 or 25 PV modules, that's fine. It will work.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah, if you share this document with us as well, that would be awesome. We did share it this last spring when we had another Huawei webinar, but it's always good to share it again and upload it so people can get a hold of it and read it. Another question, how long does it take for the panels to be touch safe with optimizers? I understand the question to be, well, when will the voltage be 0?
Okay, to be honest, I don't know exactly the answer, but the time it's measured in a few seconds, I guess. It's quite fast. I don't have any reports or measurement reports which exactly tells how fast, but it's like the time is measured in seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. No more questions at this moment.
Okay, so 1 hour is behind us, so we have finished the part about the products. So finally we can go to the app and the commissioning. What I didn't tell you about during the product presentation is our inverters mostly, if it comes to the residential, have the built-in VLAN. So this built-in VLAN is only to communicate with the FusionSolar app and nothing else. If you would like to communicate our inverter with the additional VLAN network, we need to use the dongles. We need to use the VLAN or fast Ethernet, VLAN fast Ethernet dongle or 4G dongle. And this is what I'll be showing you right now. So I will be connecting with the inverter by my phone and by my app. By the way, just answering the question before it will be asked, you can download the latest version of FusionSolar app by the QR code from the web version. So eu5.fusionsolar.huawei.com is the website. On the top right corner, we have the QR code, and there is a latest version available of the app. It's very, very important to have the latest version to actually make the system work properly and to avoid any troubles, let's say, with the app. Okay, so right now I will be sharing my screen to you. My app is already open, so hold on a second, and I will just come to you with the app. Okay, now it should be visible, I guess. Yes. Okay. So
yes, it is.
This is what you actually see after you log in your app. Here is the menu called Me, and the device commissioning tool. This is the the tool which is used for performing the commissioning of our inverters. Please do not use the Sun 2000 app, which is still available on our Google Play. It's not valid anymore. It caused a lot of troubles. This is actually the Sun 2000, but built inside FusionSolar app, and this is only proper way to perform the commissioning of our inverters. I will just connect our optimizers right now because I didn't want to do it before our training. And we will just jump through the we'll just jump through the commissioning. Okay, so first of all, when you perform the commissioning, you can scan the QR code of your inverter. This is what the app will require. But just for my comfortable usage of my phone during the presentation, I will just choose the manual connection. Whatever you choose, it's fine. It's scanning the QR code is just more comfortable. So as you can see, I will just switch the network, and there is the list of available networks nearby. So the network called Sun 2000 and its serial number. This is the network I would like to be connected to, and this is actually the network from the inverter. Okay, so our phone is right now connected to it. My password was already remembered by my phone, but if somebody would like to know what the password should be put during the first commissioning, is change me, written by capital letter of C. Just one more thing, this is the mirror app, and at some point you might not be able to see what I am doing exactly when we have the menus where passwords have to be typed. It's because of the safety of the mirror apps, and in that case I will be doing something like this right now. So I will be just turning on my camera and should be visible, but it isn't, unfortunately. Yes, now it's visible. Okay, so I will be just turning on my camera and showing you what's going on the app on the screen of my phone when it's of course necessary and worth to remember. Okay, now we are connected with the inverter, but not connected to the system itself yet. So let's click connect. The initial password has to be set by you at the very beginning, and this is the screen how actually it looks like. For me, it's like the standard password, 5 zeros and letter A, which I'll be put right now. And this is the first screen we always will see during the first commissioning of our inverter. So this is the quick settings. So first of all, we just choose the grid code. It's very important right now to have the proper one. Mine is of course Polish, but for Sweden, for Denmark, we have different grid codes based on the 5549 standard. If you will just choose the different grid code, the inverter should restart after. Next step is detecting all the devices connected to our system. So first of all, we see our dongle connected to the system, and in the camera you can see that it's connected, but we don't have the battery connected yet, which we want to do right now. So let me just wait a little bit for inverter to restart, and we should be able to connect our battery. Let's see if it's available right now. Let's confirm. Yes, if the battery is recognizable by the inverter, it will change to Luna 2000. So it means that the battery has been connected properly. Remember, you always have to use the 4 wires. One pair of wires is for sending the information from the inverter to the battery and the other side, and also the enable signal. If any of those will be not connected properly, the battery won't start up properly and won't be able to work. So this is very important to remember. And also additional information from my side, from my experience. On the left side of the battery, on the power module, you have the button. This is called black start button. Please do not trigger the battery by this button during the first commissioning. When you do it, you might have the little problems after. I mean, the battery might switch off automatically after the working day and will not start up automatically again. If you connect the enable signal properly, the battery should be started by enable signal by the inverter and nothing else has to be done according to this. Okay, it will take a while for us to configure it. So we just need to wait patiently. At this moment, if somebody has any questions, it's a good moment to ask them.
Yes, can you use any brand of smartphone is a question.
Yes, exactly. The iOS smartphone also have the FusionSolar app, and as far as I know, the feedback from the market we have, it's stable and it works fine. So the Apple products also can be used to configure the battery. Okay, let's see if the power meter is detected. As you can see right now, the battery is recognized. It automatically recognized all the battery packs and the capacity of it. We don't have the optimizers recognized, but it is not like the very big concern right now. I will show you just after how to connect them or discover them again. Just a small remark from my side here, if you have the cascaded inverters, so you have few of them connected in the chain. Here is the icon which actually should be used for that. So you just click the plus icon and search automatically for cascaded inverters. Once it is recognized by master inverter in our case, nothing else has to be done. All the configuration, all the parameters will be copied from one inverter to another. It's very important, of course, to remember that. Now we have the energy storage control, and we have 3 different modes actually how we can use our Luna battery. The most typical is maximum self-consumption, another one is fully fed to the grid, and another one is, third last one is the time of use. I will just stop here for 2 minutes to explain you how to use those modes. Maximum self-consumption is very typical. So our inverter will produce only the amount of power we currently need to support our loads on the output. So if we need 1 kilowatt, the inverter will produce 1 kilowatt. All the rest will be taken to charge the battery. Okay, so it works like closed loop controller. The inverter is limiting output power and taking the power from PV directly to battery to charge it. Of course, as long as the battery is not fully charged, and if it's charged fully, then inverter can export the energy to the grid. This is how the maximum self-consumption works. And of course, when our PV system is not able to supply enough power to our loads, then the battery comes into the action and provides the power from battery packs through the DC side to the AC side via inverter. For this scenario, we need to have the power meter. This is a very common question at this point. So is that really needed to have the power meter? The answer is unfortunately yes, you need them, because the inverter itself do not recognize how much consumption you have and will not know how much exactly power it needs to produce to supply your loads and not to export the energy to the grid. So our power meter is kind of a watchdog in grid tie point control, which is monitoring how much energy we currently need, and it's producing exactly this amount of power we currently need, nothing else. That's why we need it. If it comes to the second scenario, so fully fed to the grid, this is the scenario which allows us to do completely opposite scenario. So all the energy will be exported to the grid, and for most of the scenarios, you will charge your battery during the night when the energy is cheaper and export as much as power to the grid when it is most expensive. So fully fed to the grid is a good solution if you have to sell the energy to the grid operator and buy it after different prices. The time of use is the scenario which actually allows you to customize the usage of your energy storage system. So, for example, you can allow your battery system to discharge only afternoon, or for example to charge only during the morning and afternoon hours. Of course, it's not applicable for just all the days. You can customize which days you would like to and how you would like to use it. I will just come back to the standard solution. So here is the window you cannot see, and there's a part which actually is the part which is for configuring the connection network by the dongle with the local network. I'm not sure if it's visible right now in the camera right now what I'm showing to you. If it's too low, if it's too small, I can stop to sharing my screen for a moment.
It's right now it's just a black screen from your
but in a camera,
smartphone.
I should be visible right now in the camera.
No, you're
Is
not.
it visible? So it's not visible at all.
Nope.
Okay, and how about now? Do you see something in camera right now?
No, still just see the black screen on the.
Okay,
on the
okay.
phone.
So sorry for that. I'm using this program for the first time. Okay, how about
No
this right
worries.
now? Do you see my camera?
Yes, we see your setup there. Yeah.
Okay, and now we should be able to see the app.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the solution.
Just
Okay, so
but you need to share the screen. We only see it on a share your camera.
yes, because unfortunately, when I share my screen, the Mirror app do not display the windows where we have to put the passwords, and here is the password for the network. This is how it works. So just in a short brief, this is the moment when you decide where you want your inverter to be connected to which network, and you have to put the password on it. And what's very important to remember, first of all, if you have the option remote automatic upgrade enable, remember that the inverter will automatically update itself when the new firmware version will be released on FusionSolar. I highly do not recommend you to do that, to turn this function on, because of one reason. If you have like the very old firmware version of the dongle, for example, and the inverter will automatically upgrade itself to the latest version, it might have the problem between the inconsistent firmware versions. So this is what shouldn't be actually marked if you are not sure you're having the latest firmware already installed. It's important to remember. So we just put the password and the network to the password here. So which I will right now do.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just come back to the sharing of my screen.
Okay. Mm.
In the meantime, I have seen somebody ask the question if the
Yes.
Luna battery can be used for peak shaving. The answer for this question is unfortunately no. It's because this is the DC coupled solution. So the inverter is actually producing the IC side power. And if you would like to react much faster than our load demand is, we would need the AC coupled solution, not the DC coupled. So this is unfortunately answer for this is no. Okay.
And there's actually another question, but going back to the peak shaving though, I mean, if you later on, if you have time different tariffs over the time of day, you can actually use time of use and make sure that you buy cheap energy at night, and when the morning comes and you have a peak in the morning in effect, then you will draw from the battery and
Yes,
not
exactly.
from the so in that sense you can actually do use it as a peak shaving.
Yes, of course, it's true. It's true. Of course, if we have the huge demand of the consumption from the loads at the very moment, an inverter itself cannot provide enough power from the PV system just to supply enough power to the loads. The battery will support it. This is true. But remember, we are always limited by output power, maximum output power of inverter. So if our demand is 10 kilowatts, but we have 5 kilowatts inverter, it will just support a little bit our system, but do not do the peak shaving like in a standard meaning of that word.
But it would be so like a semi-good peak shaving, though. I mean, if you can shave off in the morning time when the electricity is more expensive, because you have put or been buying cheap electricity and charging your battery at night, then that would go a long way. Because in Sweden later on, we do presume that all the private persons will also have be charged by the highest effect out take per month, and then that will be actually quite important. And of course, during the day, then the PV system will load up the battery. So when we have a high cost for electricity in the late part of the afternoon, early evening, then the battery is fully charged and be able to draw the energy from the battery, not from the grid. So it will be a semi-peak shaving, I would still say, though. Even though it's not set up as you're saying exactly for it.
Yes, it's of course true what you just said.
Yeah, and there is another question as well, and which is a common one that we often get. If the end customer has switched operator for their internet and they have a new password, new Wi-Fi connection, how do they actually reconnect to the new router? This is
okay. So I will just finish the last sentence about the configuration, and I will show you exactly how to do that.
Perfect.
Sure. Okay. So this is how our system properly configured should look like. All the green circles here, and we'll come back to this menu after, but here is the way how to change the password by the user. So let's come back to our app. If we want to connect with our inverter one more time, we don't have to be logged in as an installer. We can log here as an user. So if you will choose not installer, let me show you that. So the screen right now wouldn't be shared, but if you can see that on my phone right now, there will be no installer, but the user account. So Now I'll maybe share it one more time. And I'm sorry for that. Unfortunately, this is the limitation of the mirror apps, and we cannot actually skip it in any way. Okay, and so if we will just log in as a user, not like the installer, our device commissioning tool will look like this. So not like the what you have seen before, but this is the user menu. And what user can do here is quite a lot of stuff. So first of all, we have the three dots on the top right corner. And when we just go to the settings here, we can change the password to the VLAN, we can upgrade device, we can download the logs, and we have the router connection settings. So this is what it's demanded by our users. It's how the end user can change the network and change the password for our dongle just to reconnect the system by himself. This menu allows us to do a lot of different things, like to take a look on the alarms or download the logs if some warranty replacement is being considered here. So you can tell your customers anytime that this tool is available for them if it will be needed. One more thing I have to tell you before I finish answering this question, I will exit this app, because if the user has the owner account, not the installer account, he won't have this menu here. So he won't be seeing this device commissioning. But let's log out from the system. Okay, you cannot see it for sure right now, but if you just don't have any access to the internet and you are staying on the login screen in FusionSolar app and you don't have any access to the internet, so the airplane mode is recommended here. You have like the three dots on the top right corner. And as you can see right now on my second screen is the device commissioning where no network available. And now the user can actually open this tool and log in inside the inverter as a user and do the operation I have told before. So this is how it's possible to change the password. Okay, are there any other questions according to this app?
At the moment, no more questions.
Okay, so let's just go through the device commissioning tool a little bit more in a short brief. First of all, we have the local device monitoring. What I have to warn you, the values you can see right now here are the values in the real time. But what you can see on the platform, on our FusionSolar web UI or our monitoring app, are the mean values from last 15 minutes. So it will be never the same values here and here. This is kind of a confusing for many people, but this is what you need to remember. It's not on the FusionSolar, we don't see the real-time data. It's the mean data from last 15 minutes. Okay, if it comes to the alarm section, so we can actually take a look here and check if we have any alarms. The quick settings is what we have been through. What's important is the maintenance menu. The maintenance menu allows us to, for example, auto search our optimizers if we have the problem to detect them. We can upgrade our devices if we have the proper firmware package. So from this level, it's possible to upgrade them. And what I personally advise you or your installer groups, do it all the time, every time you commission the inverter for the first time on site. Do not wait with the upgrade till next day or till somewhere in the future. Log management allows us to download all the logs from the devices. This is the log which has to be a part of our under warranty claim. Those logs are analyzed by Huawei service department, and based on this information, the warranty replacement is approved or disclaimed. Battery maintenance. Battery maintenance is the menu when we can actually forcibly charge or discharge our battery. It depends from which source you are using. If you will enable to charge the battery from the grid, it will be charged from the grid and from the PV modules. If you won't enable it, it will be charged only from PV modules. So from this menu, you can right now tell your inverter, do not produce any energy, use it only for charging the battery. AFCI self-test check is the check of the AFCI function if we have the problems of our on our system with arcing. Of course, it monitors the system all the time, but if you would like to check at this moment if we have any problems yet, we can use this function. We can restore default settings, clear all the alarms if we are sure they are not existing anymore, clear historical energy yield. So if you would like to remove the inverter from the site and, for example, sell it to other customer, like used inverter, you can just clear the history of energy yield and it will be 0 again. And of course, you can adjust it if in your opinion it's something wrong here and it should be lower or higher, you can adjust it manually. One more thing is what about the warranty? About when selling the inverter? It's the question which has been asked on the chat, so I will stop here for a moment. The standard warranty is 10 years and it continues. Okay, so if you are trying to sell the used inverter before, the customer has to be aware that the warranty is shorter than it should be, than standard warranty. The warranty can be extended once up to 20 years. So from 10 to 15 or from 10 to 20 years if it comes to residential. If it comes to CNI, it is 5 years standard warranty and it can be extended to 10, 15 or 20 years. What is good about Huawei inverters, it can be done at any moment of standard warranty. So you can decide after 9 years that you would like to extend your warranty. Another question from the chat, you cannot find the FusionSolar app on the Google Play. Yes, you cannot find it, and I will just repeat on the FusionSolar web UI, so eu5.fusionsolar.huawei.com, you can download the APK file and download it and install it on your phone, as well as on the iOS. There will be a link to which will redirect you to download the app. It's because, unfortunately, some issues between the Huawei as Chinese company and Google as American company as the developer of most of the Android apps right now. There's some political tensions between them, and that's why the many applications from Huawei are deleted from the Google Play. If you're able to download, for example, Huawei App Gallery, which also there is a link on Web UI platform. So from this platform, you can download the FusionSolar, but not from the Google Play. Okay, one more thing I would like to maybe show you is the power adjustment. No, sorry, not the power adjustment. Let's go to the settings and let's go to the feature parameters. If we are using the backup box, it's very important to turn on one function here, which is called off-grid mode, so the third from the bottom. This is the function which is typically turned off, and when you turn it on, you are able to use the backup box. So when the AC is gone, your backup box will switch the reserved power from the battery and provide it to the single phase as a backup power. This must be set on. If you don't set it, the inverter will just switch off and do not provide you the power on the backup box. In power adjustment, we have the battery control, and we can change the working mode here, or we can change the parameters according to charging and discharging the battery, as well as the state of charge and discharge, and enable or disable charging from the grid. Those parameters are available remotely from the web UI as well. So this is in the short brief, it is the app, the commissioning app for Huawei inverters. Please use the latest one. Please download it from the source I have told you about, and do not download the Sun 2000 app from the Google Play, which is not valid anymore. This built-in device commissioning tool is guarantee for you for your system to work fine and to avoid any problems with the connection in the future. Okay, any questions according to this? I think we will spend more 20 minutes of last part of our presentation showing the web UI, because there are some things also which must be clarified, I guess. Okay, if there are no questions according device commissioning tool, let's just switch to the app. Okay, now it should be visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so this is our system connected to our FusionSolar, and here, just in a short brief, I will explain you how to use it. First of all, we can take a look on performance of our system, how it works, and if it's working fine or not. We can have the alarms section here, which will tell us exactly what's going wrong with our system if something is going wrong. We can see all the yields and the charts. This is the system which is for the test reasons only, so it doesn't look exactly how typical PV installation works. If we will just go to device management, here is the very important tab, because from this point we can configure all our system almost the same as we can do it from the app. So when we just click here and change the set parameters, for example, no, I didn't add my permission. So sorry, you have to trust me on my word. If you just put it here, the checkbox here, and put the set parameters here, you can set almost all parameters which I showed you on the device commissioning tool app. Very important thing to remember in this FusionSolar. First of all, do not use this icon. I mean, delete device. If you have your device replaced under warranty by Huawei, please always use the replace device. So the app will ask you to put the new serial number. If it's not recognized automatically, just put the new serial number. Because if you will delete the device from FusionSolar, you will erase all historical data from the server, and there will be no possibility actually to take it back. Very important to remember about this. If you have the optimizers, we can see the logical layout. So this is what I have showed you before, but we can add the physical layout actually. So we can upload the picture, or we can create it manually by just dragging the PV modules here and just binding them with the optimizers. So this is the section where you can bind the inverter to the PV modules and to the optimizers. I think you will figure it out how it works, but it can be done remotely, as I told you. This is not the part we will be explaining today, but it can be done remotely if you don't have a time for or will to do it on site. Most important section for us is the plans section. Plans section is allowing us to go to the device management menu, which I have I showed you before. We have the upgrade management, where we can actually remotely add the firmware upgrades to different type of the devices here, and just to choose the proper plant and start the upgrade of our devices remotely. Also, what's available here is the device log export. So in case of any problems with the devices, and if they are online, we can start the export here and attach the file with the logs to the provider or to the service, just to consider our inverter as a warranty replacement. Device license management is only applicable for AV curve smart diagnosis or additional products Huawei have in sale. In plant management also, we can change the settings of our plant. So we can edit the parameters. I don't know if I have permission for this. Yes, I have. So if you would like to change the string capacity, this is what you mostly ask for. It can be done here. If you would like to change the time zone, also it can be done from here. If you would like to, for example, ask for this for checking of this PV plant for some service, you can share the plant with some other person who has an account in FusionSolar. So if you will just type the email, for example, my email address, I will be able to see your plant, and it is like very valuable option if it comes to the service. So if any help is needed, we always ask you to share the plant. So this is what I really mean. Share the plans means do this operation, and I will be able to, or our employees will be able to see what was going on this plant, what alarms we have, and just to provide you some proper solution. If it comes to the system, because this is very important tab, we have something what we have to carry about, and this is the company management. So if you will just add the company, it will appear as a sub-company under your account. And if you would like to have the company, for example, which is the company for which are the installers, and this is a sub company for you. So we would like for them to see the plant they commissioned, but you don't want them to see the other plants on your account. You should add the company, bind the PV plant with the company account, and in that company we should create a new user here by using the add user. So the order is following. First of all, create sub-company, then create an account under sub-companies, and after that, we just bind it with the proper PV plant. If you will create the tree structure like this, you will have the assurance that there will be no possibility somebody will see somebody else's personal data, and everyone will be, of course, happy. I hope so, with working of this system. There is a new function here which is called delete account. So imagine the situation when your installer just bonded the PV installation of the customer with his account, and at some point he would like to just take it away from his account, or just make it possible to somebody else to have this plant under his or her structure. So here is the the delete account function, and if we will just delete our own account, the customer's plant can be associated with different companies at the same at this moment. It cannot be associated with two different companies at the same time. This is the disadvantage of this monitoring platform. So if we would like to delete self account here, it's possible right now. And one of last thing I wanted to show you is the data management, is the function which actually allows us to download the data from the inverter if we are missing some. So situation like this, we lost the communication with the internet. Our inverter is not sending the data to the FusionSolar from last 30 days, because this is the capacity of internal memory of the inverter. So here we just choose the plant and just create the recovery task. And all the data will be restored from last 30 days to the platform from inverter's memory. This is also a very useful option which you can use. One last thing, sorry, the previous should be last thing, but this is the last thing I wanted to show you, is the alarm configuration. Alarm configuration is very valuable if you want to receive the prompts from the app or receive the prompts on your email. So we choose the alarm severity. For example, we would like to be informed only when some critical and major alarm will occur, and we just choose the user email. We can put several of them, which will receive the communicate from the app. Okay, something is going wrong, and this is the alarm, and this is your prompt you should receive. And then you will actually know that some intervention has to be performed. So alarm configuration also allows us to do to receive the push announcements.
There's one question. If you use a smart power sensor with an inverter that is limited power, is it possible to produce more than the limitation because of the base load?
Okay, you mean the limitation by zero export function?
It's not. You have the question there in the chat.
Let me take a look. Okay, if you use smart power sensor with inverter as a limited power, is it possible to produce more than the limitation because of the base load? If you have the limited power, it means that this is the power which maximum power can be exported to the grid. So it doesn't mean this is the maximum power inverter can produce, because if you will have the load demand like on 1 kilowatt and you will set the 1 kilowatt of maximum limitation, it means that your inverter can produce 2 kilowatts. So this, I hope this is the answer for the question. So it's not like the limitation. Of course, if you will set it as a closed loop controller, because there are two different power limitations. First of all is the power limitation of the inverter itself. So if you will actually set the limitation on the inverter, it cannot produce more than you told us, you allow the inverter to produce. But if you use the closed loop controller with zero export function or limited export function, it can produce more than actually you set on the power meter, including your loads at this moment. So I hope that was the question, and this is the answer. Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, so basically, if you have an export limitation to the grid, it's always better to limit the smart power sensor than the inverter, correct?
It's if you would like to change, if you will see, I don't know if I will be able to show it right now. Let's see. It's kind of a tricky setting here, because if you want to set the device, the export limitation in device management, you have to go to not to inverter settings, not to the power meter setting, but to the dongle settings. Let me check now. Yes, okay, now I can show it to you. So here is the active and reactive power control, and we are in the settings of the dongle. So if you will just go to the active power control, we have those functions: zero export limitation, limited power to the grid in kilowatts and in percent value. This is how it should be set. If you will just go to the inverter settings, here you also have the power adjustment, and you can limit the active power of inverter. Doesn't matter if it will be in watts or in percentage, it will work the same. But this is the limitation of output power of inverter. The previous setting is limitation of what's going on the grid tied point control.
Okay, so it should actually be done at the dongle. Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, of course. You have to consider the dongle as like a master device in the whole system. So it's controlling the data flow between the devices. That's why this is the settings of active or the zero export function. The export function is always configured by communication device in Huawei systems. If you have the smart logger, it works exactly the same. If you want to have the active or reactive power control in grid tied point, you just change it in the smart logger settings or in the dongle settings, not in the inverter settings.
Thank you for that. It's very good to know.
Okay, of course, if we just come into the monitoring of our devices, we will always see the recent status of our device and the electrical values. Here we have also a useful function which is called historical info, and we can check what's going on different electrical parameters through the days. So this is also the function which allows you to find out what might be an issue with the system. So if you will see like very huge over voltage at some day here on some DC or AC side, it doesn't matter, and your inverter doesn't work anymore, it's like easy way to find out that maybe some SPDs has been triggered and your inverter has to be replaced under warranty. So the historical info is also a very valuable tool for service operation and maintenance after.
Another question: power limit with 100 kilowatt inverter that does not have a dongle.
It's not possible because you don't have any communication device. So you can, of course, you can set it up on site by device commissioning, just communicating with the inverter on site. So do the same operation as I did 1 minute ago, but you cannot do it remotely. You don't have any communication device. It means you don't have to, you cannot do it remotely.
So hence, so that's why we recommend most of the time, if you have a larger inverter, it's always good to have a a smart logger, because that makes it easier to do these
No,
type of settings.
it will work. It will work with the smart logger. It will work with the dongle as well. It actually doesn't matter which communication device we use, as long as it is compatible with the inverter. But if we don't have any communication device, such setting can be done only on site, not remotely.
Yeah. I don't know, understand soon inverter and smart logger with power meter. Is that a question or a statement?
Okay, so this is the inverter and smart logger with power meter. So in that scenario, the power limitation can be achieved by changing the settings of the smart logger, not the dongle. So the same operation I have done with the dongle, it can be done by smart logger remotely. Nothing. It's very easy to do that. The same way I showed you like 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Yes, one should always basically consider smart logger or dongle as the brain of the system.
I will just tell you one interesting thing. Officially, if you have read any materials from Huawei, we don't support communication by VLAN fast Ethernet dongle for inverters like 60 and 50 and 100. But not officially, I can tell you that you can easily use those dongles. I mean, VLAN fast Ethernet for those inverters. Many of them works till day without any issues with the communication. You just have to know a little trick how to do that, and the hardware and software is already prepared for this compatibility. So in case you need to use it, I can provide you the information how. So no need to buy the smart logger if you have just one or two inverters on site. The VLAN dongle will provide the communication.
Yeah, excellent. And that's a lot cheaper option, of course. One more question from Ulle. Are or will the data of your energy meter be open to other applications?
It's a difficult question because it's not a very detailed question. I mean, yes, it is. I mean, we can download the data from our system by two possible ways. First way is to use the Modbus TCP IP communication, so connected to the dongle and use the internal registers of the inverter and the power meter as well, and take those data to the external system. Or we can use the open API for FusionSolar and just take it from the server. The second option is of course more complicated, and you don't see real-time data here, and you are, of course, you depend on the availability of the server at this moment. So two possible ways to transfer the data to other apps. There is no other way, as far as I know, at this moment.
Any more questions? No, it doesn't look like that. It's been a little bit longer webinar this time, but I think it's been very, very helpful and very useful. You've been covering a lot of area, Rafal, and it seems like most people are still with us, and that means that it has been interesting, which is, of course, the purpose of all these webinars, to provide information to our customers so they can make better use of all the Huawei devices and apps and FusionSolar Web and so forth. I would like to thank you, Rafal, for a very, very thorough and good webinar.
Okay, thank you for coming. The audience was very good today. I mean, a lot of people were interested. So thank you for your presence. And I wish you good luck with Huawei products. In case of any troubles or technical questions, you can always send it to Michael after our webinar, and it will be clarified for you after.
So once again, thank you everybody for coming to this webinar. And next week, next Wednesday at the same time, we will have the last webinar of the season. It will cover all the products that we have currently, news, and an outlook for 2022 when it comes to products and everything else. And that will be me hosting that one. So welcome back next week for a closing webinar of this season with an outlook towards the future. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Thank you very much.